The date is Thursday, April 20th, 2006. We are in Modesto, California, and I'm sitting here with Richard Edward Watchempino. He was born on April 14th, 1930. The people in attendance at this interview are myself, Evan Watchempino, Edward Watchempino, and my father, Arnie Watchempino. The organization that we are working with is Jesuit High School. Edward Watchempino was in the Korean War, fighting with the U.S. Army. His rank was corporal, and he served in Central Korea. So where were you drafted, or did you enlist?
I was drafted in Monterey, California.
All right. Now I know that you had brothers and sisters, my father being one. What were your feelings knowing that you were going to be going to war, but not knowing if you were ever going to see them again?
It was a totally new experience that I knew I was heading into. And whatever the consequences, I was going to make good of it.
All right. I know that my father didn't head off to war with you, but did any other of your siblings or friends go with you?
Not with me, but we have a brother between your dad and me who also spent service in Korea, but with the U.S. Air Force.
All right. Did you talk to your friends and family before you left?
Just the usual, hey, I'm going to be leaving. I may or may not come back, but don't worry about it. I'll see you whenever.
You married at around the age of 18. What were your feelings when you knew that you had to leave your wife?
I was not married at the time. I got married when I was 23, much later after I got discharged from the service.
Why did you join?
I didn't join because at the time they had a draft system, so I was drafted into the service upon arriving at the age of, at the time, 21.
Why did you pick the service branch you joined, or did you even have a choice?
I didn't have a choice.
Do you recall your first days in service?
I sure did. It was quite an experience. I knew that it was, and I just told myself, hey, whatever comes, I'm going to make the best of it.
Now, when you say experience, what things went on that day, if you can remember?
Just going down to the draft board where me and a few other young fellows were to meet. We were loaded on a bus and transported from Fresno, California to Monterey, where Fort Ord is located. And that's where I took my basic training.
Alright. Well, what kind of stuff did you do in training?
I guess the typical basic training, learning weapons and what one might encounter facing a potential enemy, matter of survival, and making sure that you cover your buddies, and so that you're as a good, frightful unit.
So what did it feel like going through training?
It was quite a new experience, one that I had never really thought of before, but because I was there, and as a first-time thing, I had never read anything about it, so I just took it as it came, and it was very interesting. I learned many things along the way that I didn't know in the past, but basically it boiled down to a matter of survival.
Did you feel that you were going to have to kill anyone when you went over, or did you just think that you were just going to head over there?
I didn't think that at the start, but until midway through basic training, we were told that should an enemy be encountered, it's you or them, so that whatever you thought at that moment for survival, you would make that choice, and obviously it would be them, not rather than yourself. So, yes, I wanted to take care of myself, so that I did return home.
What kind of weapons were you introduced to during training?
In basic training, it was the at the time the M1 rifle and the carbine. And after that, some of the heavier weapons, the mortar, the bazooka, the artillery pieces. And I guess that was it. Oh, and we were also told about some of the landmines that a potential enemy might use against us.
Did you ever have moments where you wanted to leave because you were so miserable and homesick?
No, I was never miserable. It was an experience, so that kept my mind occupied. And because I knew I was to serve a term of duty, which was 21 months at the time, that eventually I would come home if I was fortunate enough. And I looked forward to that moment that I would return home.
Do you remember who your instructors were?
No, I don't.
Alright, so the experiences. So you said previously that you served in the Korean War.
Yes.
So where exactly in Korea did you go?
From the U.S., I went by transport ship to Japan. Spent a few more days there for orientation, and from there continued the sail around south of Japan to the west side of Korea, the port of Incheon. At that point, we disembarked and boarded a troop train to the appropriate area that I was to be assigned.
How long did it take you to get from the United States to the point where you were assigned in Korea?
Approximately 2 weeks.
Right. Did you arrive upon your destination by yourself or with a group of men?
With a group of men, most of which were guys that I took basic training with.
Alright, since you arrived at these group of men, were you close to any of these men, or were these just soldiers that you went through training with?
I went through basic training with a lot of them, but at the end of my basic training, I joined the leadership course, which extended my basic training or advanced training, and thereby the group that I started with, most of them went on ahead of me. At approximately 2 months later, I was then assigned to go overseas, so that's the separation that occurred. My initial basic training buddies went on ahead of me, and I followed much later.
Alright. What were your thoughts when you first arrived in Korea?
My thoughts were, it was almost midnight, and I thought, oh my goodness, what am I up to, you know? I can't even see the terrain, and everything's so dark, and commands and orders were whispered, and what I noticed was that finally we're supplied live ammo and actually told to load our weapons and to be ready for any eventualities. So we were, I guess, on full alert, and then boarded the troop train to head us deeper into Central Korea.
When you first met the other soldiers, did you feel a sense of camaraderie between you and the others?
I sensed that the moment I took basic training, all through basic training and meeting other units on the troop ship and other new units that congregated in Japan, and finally on into Korea, some of which were assigned different combat companies and units. So in a sense, some of us were separated. A few, we stayed together.
What was your job or assignment?
My job or assignment was a mortar gunner, 60 mortar gunner. And I started as an assistant gunner because a soldier there outranked me by 1 notch, and he was the gunner. So I was to support him with this actually a squad assigned weapon. One being the gunner, me being the assistant gunner, and then about 4 other people who were ammo bearers. And that was called a squad.
Alright. Did you feel that you were trained enough to complete the task in which you were assigned?
No, because at the beginning we were told this is a new experience. You never know what's going to be out there. So that told me that any moment everything could change from basic training. But basic training was enough to tell me that be ready for anything that could happen out there. It's kind of at the last moment you might have to adjust everything that you were taught and make do with the moment at hand.
Did you see combat?
I did as a skirmish or patrol policing unit. I arrived at Korean front lines about the time most of the combat was settling down to a main line of resistance in preparation for signing a peace treaty with the North Koreans. But still, some nights there were shifting of companies to adjust more strategic positions so that when the signing of the peace was made, our army would be more in a tactical advantage.
Alright. So you were shot in the back, so do you know who the person was who shot you in the back?
I was shot not in the back but in the front. And this is called friendly fire. The day before, this new young trooper was assigned to my squad. And the old person that was there for 8 months was being returned to the States. And this new person, being that it was his first night on the lines with me, we had a alert that night. So everything for him was panic. And in a matter of just a few hours, I was trying to teach him the rights and wrongs when one becomes under such an attack.
Alright. So, what were your first thoughts and feelings when that bullet went into your skin?
Well, my first feelings was that I knew the name of the person. He was in my unit. He had just arrived a few hours earlier, so he didn't know exactly what was happening at the moment. And panic, I would say, took hold of him. And in those few moments, in that darkness, when we were attacked about almost midnight, he thought that I was one of the enemy. So his first reaction was to, any movement in the darkness was to fire his weapon. The moment the bullet hit me, I yelled his name, and my yelling his name calmed him down for a few moments so that he settled down. But at that time, I also was pretty severely in pain, and a few moments later, the medic arrived and started taking care of me.
Alright. Did they send you home early because of the injury that you received?
Well, I don't know what early meant to the military at the time, but what they told me was that you are going to be completely healed and back mobile before we send you home. And however your recovery goes will determine when we'll send you home.
So did you end up serving your 21 months, or did you come back earlier than that?
No, my term of duty was cut short by 2 months.
Alright. Were there many casualties in your unit?
It was sporadic and very light, as I say, because we were establishing a main line of resistance in preparation for eventual treaty that was soon to come about.
Did any of your close friends die in the war?
Yes, those that went on ahead of me while I remained about a month after basic training to take my leadership course. That group that I took basic with went on ahead of me by about a month. And when they got to Korea, things were still pretty upset, and many of our units were attacked, and as a result, some of my best buddies and friends were eliminated.
Did you see any of these men or women die before your eyes?
No, I did not.
Tell me about a couple of your most memorable experiences.
Well, I think that that night that I got hit by my new replacement, friendly fire, was the highlight of my whole tour of duty over there. Otherwise, everything that I was taught in basic training occurred up to that point. I was open for anything that might happen, and to that point, I was doing well.
Were any of your friends prisoners of war?
No, they weren't.
Were you awarded any medals or citations?
I was awarded the usual combat citations and place of area and commemorative banners that came along with a tour of duty, plus the Korean Service Awards ribbons.
What memories or emotions came to your mind when you received your awards?
Nothing very highlighting. What was uppermost in my mind was how much longer will I be here, and I hope that my count in the days, it wasn't too far in coming.
Did you feel that the award that you received should have been given to you, or did you feel that someone else more greatly deserved the honor?
No, I felt everything was according, and I felt comfortable.
Alright. So, how was life in the service and life on the front or under fire?
It was more or less what I was taught would come, and fortunately it wasn't as hectic as some of my basic training buddies that went on ahead of me underwent. I'm thankful for that I went a bit later and missed some of the heavier bombardment that they went through.
So what was the lifestyle like when you guys went in combat?
It was routine cleaning of weapons, body hygiene, showers, writing letters, and catching up on the latest combat strategies that had come up so that we'd be prepared for the next one.
Alright, so did you write a lot of letters back to your family or friends?
Not a heck of a lot, just I'm not a good writer, so I did the best I could.
When did you find the time to write these letters?
Usually on every 2 weeks we got a shower tour to the back lines, and it was at this time that I also jotted off a short letter or two to my parents.
Alright. What was the food like?
The food was the usual sea rations right at the front lines. You had to cook when you could, heating up the sea rations. But like I say, every twice a week, if it allowed, you were sent to division rear to take your showers, and at that time you were served a hot meal. Or on a holidays, like say Christmas, the division unit managed to come up to the front lines with their kits and actually serve a hot meal. Of course, it wasn't with all the fancy trimmings, but it was a hot meal.
So what was Christmas like, spending it away from your family?
A bit on the lonely side. You wish that you could be at home with typical Christmas trees and chatting and laughing with your friends and relatives.
Yeah. Did you get any type of food poisoning or receive food that was not edible?
No, it was pretty well policed, and everything was right down to where we were well taken care of.
Did you have plenty of supplies?
Supplies were always there.
Did you feel any pressure or stress to complete your task?
No, I did not, because we were always brought up to date on the latest news, and therefore we mentally adjusted to what might be coming.
Did you ever just want to give up and quit, or did you feel that you had a commitment to your country?
I never ever felt I wanted to quit. I felt that I took basic with a bunch of guys, and we all worked as a unit, and plus we came from a good country, and I wanted to do my tour of duty and get it over with so that I could get home.
Was there something special or something you carried that you used for good luck?
I guess just my dad and my grandfather's native prayers in thought. Every day that went by, I always thought of my traditional native heritage.
Do you remember how to say those prayers?
I sure do. I try to teach my nephews and grandparents and my brothers.
Do you want to recite one?
I'll just say a couple of words here.
All right.
One is tawa meaning thanks, that I'm able to sit here and to be interviewed, and also goatsi, which is greetings for anything that may happen to me in the future.
Alright. So, did you find yourself to be more religious during the war than any other moment in your life?
No, it remained constant, what I was taught as a child by my parents and the schools that I went to. It just stayed in my mind that I would just retain those and continue with it.
Alright. How did people entertain themselves?
At the front lines, or after, or
After.
after.
Yes.
So I guess you might be referring to while I was recuperating in the hospital.
You can, yeah.
It was typical hospital recuperation. The hospital that I was recuperating at was the United States Air Force Hospital in Japan. And at this hospital, many Air Force, Army, and Marines were recuperating there. So it seemed like kind of a rejoining of some of the basic training you got with the same type of people. All of us were military, so all of us had this military camaraderie. So it was exciting to exchange our experiences while we were doing our tour.
Did you ever have moments where you guys would just mess around and not worry about anything?
Oh yes, there were moments when we got through getting well and we were able to get passes to leave the hospital on a weekend. We'd go into this town of Kyoto and then do the usual thing that GIs would do, hit some of the bars, some of the movies, some of the play places, and then try to get back in time before curfew.
Were there a lot of women in the branch of service you were in?
I didn't see very many. I did see them after I got wounded back in the MASH, or Air Force Hospital.
Alright. So amongst your fellow soldiers, was there a lot of trash talking among one another, or did you treat each other with respect?
There was always this camaraderie because we all wore the uniform of our country, so everything was very up and nice.
What did you do when on your leave?
Again, usual carousing with your buddies. and mostly trying to play catch up and look for the day when we'd one day be out of our uniforms and back in civilian clothes.
Did you find yourself to be very emotional upon your leave?
If you want to say good riddance on your uniform and put on your civilians and let's get home, that's what I felt.
Alright. Did you take a vacation or celebrate in any way for your safe return home?
I celebrated after getting home with some of my friends and the usual welcome home party and trying to decide or adjust what I might eventually be doing as far as education or going right to work or maybe getting married. I eventually knew that I'd be meeting up with some of my girlfriends.
What were your first thoughts when you stepped on the soil in the United States again?
Oh, it feels so good to step on familiar ground.
Do you recall any particularly humorous or unusual events?
I can't really think of anything humorous. Most of it was pretty serious. And the humor, I guess, was I made it, and now I'm going to drink my next beer on my own soil.
Alright. So, what were some of the pranks that you or others would pull?
Not very many were pulled on me. I can't really think of anything.
Did you do anything to anyone else?
No, because I was one of these straight and narrow guys that I didn't go for that type of a joke. I was serious at what I was headed for, and that's where my thoughts went to.
Alright. So what did you think of officers or fellow soldiers?
Everybody was set to do their own tour, and I respected my buddies. I respected those ranked to fulfill theirs also.
Were there any soldiers around you that you wish would have not have been there?
No, everybody was a buddy of mine.
Alright.
We were family.
Did you keep a personal diary of any kind?
No, I did not.
Alright. Do you recall the day that your service ended?
Oh yes, it was a great day.
Well,
And just knowing that, actually it started after I was told that I was fully recovered at the Air Force Hospital in Kyoto, and was told that I would be heading home. From that moment on, it was these different stages of going back to Yokohama in Japan, waiting to board a troop ship, and then sailing home to arrive in Seattle, Washington. And then the bus ride from Seattle, Washington, back to where I took my basic training at Monterey. And there was where the final paperwork was done. And after that, I was set to go with my payout check and a free man.
So what emotions were running through your body the day that your service ended?
Just a good feeling that I'm back, and I felt very happy and comfortable that I finished my tour of duty.
Where were you when you knew that your service ended?
Right after I left the front gate of Monterey, Fort Ord, where I took my basic training, and returned to get my discharge papers.
Yeah. Did you do anything in the days or weeks afterwards, after your service ended?
I took a few days just trying to decide what I really wanted to do. The main thing was I had to find a job, get back on my feet on my own, so that after that I can do either education or get married.
Which one did you choose?
I decided to find a job and build up my little bankroll, and then in the meantime, I started dating my girlfriend.
Alright. Did you make any close friendships while in the service?
Nothing really close, just the usual buddies.
Do you still have some of those friendships today?
No, I don't. I just lost track of them. At one time, I thought of doing a reunion, but that didn't materialize.
Did you join a veterans organization of any kind?
I was approached by the veterans of foreign wars and disabled American veterans. And because I'm 30% disabled because of friendly fire, I am a disabled veteran and a member of the DAV.
Alright. Are you active in that group of it?
Yes, I'm still active. I get the usual literature and told what's the latest that's happening to some of the disabled veterans that have come home and readjusting to their civilian life. And that includes the later wars, like the Vietnam War and now the Middle East War.
Speaking of Middle East War, what are your feelings upon the war that we're battling today?
The same thing I felt when I was doing my tour, with the same uniform, the same unit, the same chains of command, America, and of course everyone's commander-in-chief, and the responsibilities.
Alright. So what did you go on to do as a career after the war?
I went and got my education that I desired, and then applied them towards my career, which is a graphic artist. And I work as an artist in commercial art in a major corporation. Some of it was for the Department of Defense, and the other was for a civilian corporation, from where I retired after 16 years at the age of 56 years.
So, did your military experience influence your thinking about war, about the military in general?
My thinking was that to give my best while I was in uniform, and after I got out, I devoted my time to civilian life.
Alright. Do you attend any reunions at all?
No, I don't.
No. How did your service and experiences affect your life?
It gave me a good idea of what our country is all about. That one has to protect what one loves, and to know what we're after, and try to show your best foot forward in the world as a country and as one's tour of duty entails.
Alright, so is there anything else that you would like to add that we didn't cover in the interview?
Just that good luck to all the future troops that might be joining the service for any involvement that our country might have to face. Good luck to them.
Alright, well, thank you very much.
You're very welcome.